The Intel i7-14700K was one of the most interesting options with the launch of Raptor Lake Refresh last year due to increments in almost all departments, which can't be said for its siblings. With a clock speed boost of 200 MHz, more efficient cores, and increased L2 and L3 caches, the processor is a lot faster in productivity activities and slightly better in gaming performance. As such, the processor is able to handle almost any GPU without any significant bottlenecks. That said, in this video, I'll be showing you a number of GPUs in different price ranges that you can't go wrong with. Price information and all GPUs mentioned in the video are available in the description, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. So let's get started. Number 3. ASRock Radeon RX 7600 Challenger 8GB. Best budget GPU for Intel Core i7-14700K. The ASRock AMD Radeon RX 7600 Challenger OC is based on the newest RDNA 3 architecture from AMD, belonging to the Navi 3 generation. This card offers solid value and great performance for 1080p gaming, with significant gains over the previous generation, along with support for AV1 encoding. Starting off with the design of the card, it's typically sized for a card aimed at 1080p, with its 269mm width and 132mm length. This is covered by a dual-fan design on the front, with a solid metal backplate with the usual ASRock Challenger stripes and branding. What's not usual, though, is the performance of the card. To start from scratch, the boost clock has been upped by around 2% from the stock version, stretching it to 2693 MHz, along with a higher number of TMUs from the previous generation. In addition, the number of cores has also been increased by 12.5%, totaling 2048 cores. This and the new architecture lead to a staggering 20% performance gain from the previous generation RX 6600, and even outclasses the 8GB variant of the RX 6600 XT. Comparing it to Nvidia, the card gives a tough time to the more expensive RTX 4060, and even beats it in some titles. With such a performance, the card is sure to produce some definitive heat. All of this heat is cooled off by the two striped axial fans by enhancing the overall airflow, not only through its striped design, but also the polished surfacing on the bottom. While the thermals are kept in control, the fan noise levels stay at a minimum due to the silent cooling technology. However, under high workloads for longer intervals, it can become audible. Furthermore, the card also utilizes DR-MOS regulators to not only improve the thermals, but also maintain consistent performance with the help of stable power delivery. This provides an overhead for potential overclocking, allowing you to push the card even further. The TDP value is marketed at around 165 watts, which is on the lower side of the spectrum for such a card, and you would need a single 8-pin power connector to power this, making it more accessible than the newer 12-volt high-power connector requirement of some cards. Another great addition compared to its predecessor is the support for AV1 encoding. This makes it a perfect choice for a dedicated streaming GPU at a low price point, and you can even simultaneously stream your gameplay without degrading the overall performance of the card. For connectivity, the card supports all of the latest output tech you'd need, providing 3 DisplayPort 2.1 slots, along with a single HDMI 2.1a slot. This means it can not only support 4K resolutions, but you can also connect it to an 8K display without any trouble. All in all, the ASRock AMD Radeon RX 7600 Challenger OC offers all of the important features that you'd want from a modern 1080p card at a low price, while also not compromising on the performance in AAA titles whatsoever. Number 2. Gigabyte GeForce RTX 4080 Super WindForce V2. Best premium GPU for Intel Core i7 14700K. The Gigabyte GeForce RTX 4080 Super WindForce V2 is an excellent option for users who are looking for a blend of gaming and productivity. This card uses the new iteration of the RTX 4080, the Super variant, resulting in more tensor cores, a higher memory clock of 23 gigabits per second, along with a decent bump in clock speeds, delivering exceptional performance at a discounted price from the predecessor. Starting off with the design and some important metrics, the card houses 3 100mm fans that rotate in opposite directions with a matte black finish with some glossy patterns in the middle and the corners. On the top, along with the usual Gigabyte branding, the heatsink can be glanced at with multiple copper heat pipes going through. The backside is supported by a metal backplate, along with an extended heatsink that leaves room for additional heat dissipation through airflow, allowing for a more efficient cooling solution to support the power of the card. There's also a dual BIOS switch on the backside that allows you to switch between OC and silent mode. As a default, it uses the OC mode. Speaking of power, the card is an absolute powerhouse thanks to the strength of the RTX 4080 Super. At 1440p, it's able to output more than 100 frame rates in almost all of the modern AAA titles at high settings, along with very demanding games like Cyberpunk 2077. Even at 4K resolution, you could expect smooth gameplay from the card without any stutters or frame drops. If you compare it to its rival from AMD, the 7900 XTX, the card is able to achieve around 2 to 3% more FPS in most games. With ray tracing enabled, it becomes a different ballgame altogether, with the Gigabyte RTX 4080 Super WindForce V2 outperforming the AMD equivalent with a performance increase of up to 45%. While this performance goes crazy, the cooling design of the card needs to go the same mile or it's all for nothing. Gigabyte uses their WindForce cooling solution on this card, as apparent from the name, which ensures the thermals remain at a very acceptable range. In addition to the triple fans with unique blades, there's a large copper plate that connects directly to the GPU, allowing for heat to dissipate quite easily. This is supported by numerous heat pipes, resulting in a thick heatsink on top of the PCB. All of this together keeps the card at around 70 degrees Celsius under high workload, while the hotspot touches around 82 degrees Celsius. As a cherry on top, the fans are lubricated with graphene that extends the lifespan up to 2 times. The acoustic levels are also quite good, and you shouldn't be able to hear the fans even if you overclock the card manually. When it comes to power consumption and limit, this is the biggest difference between the two versions of the Gigabyte RTX 4080 Super WindForce. The V2 has a higher power limit of up to 120%, while the V1 has a power limit of 112%. This difference in power limit is thanks to the 2mm increase in height from the V2 variant, and an additional heat pipe. The card is rated for 320 watts TDP, and the minimum PSU requirement is 700 watts. You'll need a single 12-volt high-power connector for this card, which comes in the box. For connectivity, you're looking at a single HDMI 2.1 port and 3 DisplayPort 1.4a ports. I do think at this price range you should be getting DisplayPort 2.0 support, but this isn't a major issue. In summary, the Gigabyte RTX 4080 Super WindForce V2 is an amazing card that can be geared towards both gaming and productivity alike, giving you absolute performance without compromising on anything significant. Number 1. ASRock Radeon RX 7900 XT Phantom Gaming 20GB. our top choice. AMD's Radeon RX 7900 XT is the second best card from AMD, topped by the RX 7900 XTX on the RDNA 3 architecture. The ASRock Phantom Gaming variant is one of their highest clocked cards, which witnesses an increase of around 2% in the boost clock compared to the stock version from AMD. While this is the second best offering from AMD, it competes with the 4070 Ti more than the 4080, whose rival sits in the RX 7900 XTX. That said, the performance of the RX 7900 XT can't be overlooked. To begin with the design, the 7900 XT Phantom Gaming from ASRock comes in two colors, the typical black finish as well as a white-themed look, which costs slightly more. If you've ever seen a Phantom Gaming card before, this one looks just the same. You get a triple fan design with diagonal ARGB LEDs cutting through the middle and third fan. The front has a matte finish with some glossy patterns that bring out the shine. The top side has more ARGB LEDs with Phantom Gaming branding in the middle, and it comes with an LED switch that toggles the RGB lighting. On the back side, the metal backplate has a red and black aesthetic to complement the Phantom Gaming logo with a closer look at the heatsink. Coming to the performance of the card, the factory-applied overclock is meager, as it achieves around a 1% increase in performance in comparison to the stock RX 7900 XT. That said, the card is able to beat the performance of the likes of the RTX 4070 Ti and even the 3090 Ti by around 7 to 8%, both at 1080p and 1440p resolutions. In terms of average FPS, tested on around 25 games, you're looking at an average FPS of 180 at 1080p, while going up to 2K resolution brings the number down to 140, which is still excellent. What's even better is the performance at 4K, where it's able to match the performance of the 3090 Ti while still beating the 4070 Ti by around 12%, thanks to the additional 8 gigs of memory. The card continues to surprise in cooling. It uses triple fans that rotate alternately, along with 6 heat pipes for dissipating the heat produced, while a nickel-plated copper base directly touches the GPU, enhancing the thermal efficiency even further. The result of this can be seen in outstanding temperatures even while gaming, reaching up to 58 degrees Celsius while the hotspot touches the 79 degrees Celsius region. Even while performing at this level, the fan noise level remains lower than the stock variant of the RX 7900 XT from AMD, making the card a silent monster. Where this card is not silent is power consumption. Rated at 300 watts TDP, the minimum power supply requirement is 700 watts. However, this card likes to feast on power as it continuously draws more than the rival RTX 4070 Ti. This is powered by the two 8-pin connectors, which offer more compatibility than the newer 12-volt high-power connector in the latest cards. In terms of output, you're getting a single HDMI 2.1a port and 3 DisplayPort 2.1 ports. This is great to see, as some premium cards miss out on supporting DisplayPort 2.0, even at a high price level. All in all, this card is a solid price-to-value proposition, as it outclasses the rival in the RTX 4070 Ti significantly throughout the benchmarks, while it remains well beyond the 60 degrees Celsius mark in thermals. Of course, this is dependent on your environment as well, but nonetheless, the cooling solution is quite efficient. So, what do you think? Which of these is the best graphics card for you? Or do you think another GPU is better for the Intel Core i7-14700K? Tell us in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Have an awesome day.